The rain poured in sheets, hammering down on the roof of the small hardware store. Inside, retired Marine Sergeant Frank Nolan pushed a mop across the muddy floor, his back stiff from old injuries. The cold always made his joints ache, but it wasn't the pain that gnawed at him tonight. It was the empty shelves at home and the stack of unpaid bills on his kitchen counter. He had taken this janitor job after struggling to adjust to civilian life, but it barely kept the lights on. Still, Frank refused to complain. He'd fought harder battles before. As he locked up for the night, Frank noticed a young man huddled on the bench outside, soaked to the bone and shivering. The kid looked barely 20, his thin jacket no match for the weather. His head hung low, clutching a torn backpack to his chest. Frank paused, assessing the situation. "Hey kid, you all right?" The young man looked up, his eyes hollow with exhaustion. "I'm fine," he said, though his trembling hands told a different story. Frank didn't buy it. "Come on inside. You'll freeze out here." The kid hesitated, then nodded. Inside, Frank handed him a dry towel and poured him a cup of steaming coffee. "Name's Frank. What's yours?" "Eli," the young man muttered, wrapping his hands around the cup. "Just passing through. Trying to get to the next town. Ran out of cash a few days ago." Frank could see the weight this kid was carrying. The same hopelessness he'd once felt himself after returning from war with no clear direction. He recognized the hunger in Eli's eyes, too. "You got a place to stay tonight?" Frank asked. Eli shook his head. Without a second thought, Frank handed Eli a crumpled 20 from his wallet. "It's not much, but it'll get you a hot meal and a bed at the shelter down the street. Tomorrow's a new day." Eli stared at the money, eyes wide. "Why would you do that? You don't even know me." Frank smiled faintly. "Because someone helped me once when I was down. You'll pay it forward when you can." Years later, the invitation arrived in a sleek black envelope with gold lettering. Frank stared at it in disbelief. "You are cordially invited to the annual Future Leaders Gala, hosted by Eli Turner, CEO of Horizon Enterprises." Frank blinked, confused. Eli Turner? Could it be the same kid? Curiosity got the better of him. He dusted off his only suit, one that hadn't seen daylight in over a decade, and made his way to the grand ballroom at the downtown hotel. The event was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above a sea of elegantly dressed guests. Frank felt out of place among the city's elite. He was about to turn around when a familiar voice called out, "Frank!" Eli stood at the top of the staircase, dressed in a tailored suit, a confident smile on his face. He hurried down, arms outstretched. "I can't believe you came," Eli said, pulling Frank into a firm hug. "You have no idea how long I've waited to thank you." Frank blinked in surprise. "Thank me? For what?" Eli's eyes glowed with gratitude. "For everything. That night, when you gave me that $20, it was more than just money. It gave me hope. I used it to get a meal, then found work the next day. One small break turned into another. I built my company from the ground up, and I've never forgotten what you did for me." Frank chuckled, shaking his head. "I didn't do much. You did more than you'll ever know," Eli said. "And tonight, it's my turn to return the favor." He gestured toward the stage, where a giant check with Frank's name was displayed. $100,000. A grant for veterans struggling to rebuild their lives after service. Frank's breath caught in his throat. "Eli, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Eli said with a grin. "Just promise me one thing. Keep paying it forward." Tears welled in Frank's eyes as the crowd erupted into applause. For the first time in a long while, the weight on his shoulders felt a little lighter. Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness have the power to change lives. And in Frank's case, they came full circle in ways he never imagined. Search reason.